Hey fam, welcome or welcome back. Tisha here, back with another review for Big Love Season 2. Go ahead and do me a favor and hit the like button. What wasn't going on in this episode? All of the characters are going through so many things to the point where I said, who isn't on something? Because you got Barb, who's trying to prevent her son from being a part of the very thing that she professes to believe in. You have Sarah, who's dating this guy, Scott, who's dating her and other people and sleeping with other women. You got Nikki, who is telling truths only when they benefit her. You got Albie, who is going as far as making people be in fear of him, trying to take over his father's, status while scaring other people, contacting the Greens to find out what happened between them and Bill, which in itself is a whole nother element, because how is it that Hollis Green, who was on the run from the FBI, somehow makes contact with Albie via video call when the FBI can't even find a way to get in contact with him, but Albie can? It's just not making any sense. And then we got Barb, who is just, I don't know. To me, this episode was a lot of Barb. We got a little bit more background of her family, but there's still a lot that I feel like we don't know. And I found myself still questioning some things, like how Barb and Bill got together in the first place. There's one word that we hear a lot of in this episode is hypocrite. Bill uses it at one point. At another point, we hear it from Barb. And to be fair, all of them in their own ways are hypocrites. But we'll get into it. So we begin the episode in the kitchen. Barb is looking at this announcement in the paper, and she discovers that her mother, Nancy, has announced her marriage to this guy named Ned. So Barb is looking at it and her feelings are hurt, and she lies and tells Nikki that the image is of a sorority sister that she used to be close to, and she's announcing that she's getting married. I guess she didn't want to hear Nikki's mouth about her family or her feeling sad about it, or Barb, we're your family now, Barb. Because why did she feel the need to lie about what it was that she was looking at? Bill walks in the kitchen and he says good morning, and then gets to questioning Nikki, because apparently Ben's new job is to snitch on everybody. So as Ben is questioning, or not Ben, as Bill is questioning her, you see Ben mouth that he's sorry. But are you sorry, or are you enjoying being a little snitch? Because he goes from telling on Nikki to telling on his mom. So because he let Bill know that Nikki threw a compound party, Bill is upset. But he's like, Dad, it's not that big of a deal. It's all right. It didn't even last long, because Albie came and he shut down the party even before the band could play, which seems like it's innocent. But what is it that Nikki's trying to pull here? That she invites all these people, that she invites a band, and her brother just pops up and she doesn't think to tell Bill about it. So Bill is worried about Albie just showing up there, while Barb is trying to figure out where it is that Nikki even got the money from to get a band, because we already know Nikki is not a great manager of money. After all, even though they've said nothing else about it, she had all that debt in the earlier season. So we went from her having all this debt to now her supposedly being good with managing money. So she says, it wasn't her that got the band. Wanda did. Of course, she's going to blame it on somebody else, which I guess works on her behalf, that she blames it on Wanda, because at this point I think Wanda's on the run, but we'll get into it. I feel like Nikki always overspends, and it makes me wonder why. I don't know why she feels the need to be so careless with money. I don't know if it's because she lived in poverty. Something about it isn't making sense, but it goes to the fact that there's a bigger underlying problem there that Nikki seems to struggle with. Like, Nikki has this addictive personality. She gets addicted to things. And I think one of those things that she likes to do is spend money, even if it's not hers. So Nikki tells Bill, like, don't worry. He only came over because your father, he wants Kathy, but I put a stop to it, and I told him that, you know, he can't have her. And I also let him know that, you know, we've diversified. And as soon as she said it, I'm thinking to myself, Bill, you should automatically know that there's more to this, because Albie is not the type of person who you say, leave me alone, and he just walks away, right? So she says, you know, once I told him about, you know, Weber Gaming, that it just took the wind right out of Albie's sails. And I said, Nikki completely misread that situation, because it didn't take the wind out of Albie's sails. It took the wind out of Bill's, because Albie smiled when you said it, whereas Bill currently, as you're telling him, looks concerned. He looks worried. If Bill stopped scheming so much and stopped hiding things, then he wouldn't have to worry about things like this. He picks and chooses what information he's going to share, and all he does is further complicate things. Bill is not as savvy as a man as he thinks, and his ego is going to be his downfall. So we later see him have a meeting outside with Albie, as he stands outside and Albie's sitting in the back of one of the Hummers. And he lets him know, you know, like, I'm aware that Nikki shared, you know, our business venture with you. And Albie is over him. He lets him know that, you know, he's not his dad. Like, he doesn't have a fondness for him. So at this point, he'll determine what his dynamic with Bill is going to be. So Bill offers, you know, to make things better by giving him his seat on the UEB council, saying that, you know, you can't really have power without having a seat at the table, which we know that's a lie, because Bill isn't about to give up his power. He learned nothing from this situation with calling bluffs and stirring up all these mess. And he confirms it, because later on with Ben, he tells Ben, like, nah, Ben, I'm not going to give up my seat for real. It's just a negotiation tactic. So he really thinks like he's the smartest person in the room, and he's not. So as he's talking, at some point, Albie winds up the window on him because he's not trying to hear what he has to say. And then he rolls it back down. And he, you know, reminds him that you can't have, you know, the seat for Roman unless he passes, and he hasn't passed. He said it could be months or it could be years. Albie lets him know, as I said, that he doesn't have the same fascination with Bill as, you know, his father did, meaning keep on playing, Bill, and Albie's going to probably take you out. And as I heard him talk about the fascination that he has with him, part of me wonders, is Albie jealous of that dynamic? Or is it a thing where he feels like he should be worried about Bill because Bill is directly related to the previous prophet? Like, what is it about Bill that really gets under Albie's skin, do you think? Because I think it's a combination of things. Because there are moments where it seems like Roman and Bill get along. It just doesn't last long because the both of them seem to constantly be in competition with each other. So we see Barb go to spy on her mother. Now, one thing about Barb's mother is, to me, by the time we get to the end of this whole thing, I think that Barb's mother has her own struggles. She is someone who doesn't seem to agree with a lot of the ways in which the religious community that she's a part of operates, because she makes statements that make me feel like she doesn't want to necessarily ice her daughter out, but she feels like she has to based on the choices that she's made. So Barb is sitting outside of her mother's home, kind of stalkerish in her, you know, her Volkswagen, like nobody knows that that's her. Her mother walks out and gets the paper in the driveway, and Barb approaches and she spots Barb and she's like, I can't see you. I can't see you. And, Barb's like, please, Mom, whatever, whatever. So she looks at her and she's like, have you left him? Are you gonna leave him? And there's a long pause, like it's something that Barb has actually considered or is considering. And Barb's like, shakes her head no. So her mother walks off. I personally like to think that if something like this happened in my family, that I would not react this way. I would not reject my family member. Like Tisha wouldn't do this. But I gotta feel like it has to be hard for her mother that out of all things that her mother chose this. I just personally can't see myself being like, oh, I'm not gonna have anything to do with you because you took a path that I don't necessarily agree in. If you're not hurting anyone, if you haven't committed some, awful crime or something like that, that's not a stance that I would take. But the viewer in me is also saying, like, Barb, what do you want from your mother? You know her stance on it. You chose polygamy for Bill. It's not even something that you really wanted. So leave her alone. What is she supposed to offer you? Because you're pulling her into something that she probably doesn't want to be a part of. I'm kind of torn on it. What do y'all think? Do you guys think that Barb has the right to pop up at her mom's house and be upset because she wasn't extended an invite to her wedding? Like, what are your thoughts on it? So Barb is upset that she wasn't invited to the wedding. She tries to make the situation about the kids to her mom and how they need their grandmother, but it's not about them, in my opinion, because later on in the wedding, they seem like they don't even want to be there at the reception. So to me, this is more so about Barb. So Sarah is at Scott's house when he gets a text and it says, "That was great, XOL." I said, L? Who is L? Then I realized that Sarah must have heard me because she said the same thing. She's like, who is L? And what was great? And I said, yeah, what was great, Scott? You heard Sarah, what was great? So he says, she's my ex-girlfriend, which gets the phone tossed at him. He's like, we're just friends. But it's not just friends. It's friends with benefits, because I don't sleep with my friends, but apparently Scott sleeps with his friends. So he reminds her, like, we never said we're exclusive. And I didn't want to rush you into anything, but I don't want to be celibate. I want to see other women. I care for you, Sarah, but I don't want the responsibility of a virgin, especially because, you're not ready. I can't, live like a monk. And I'm hearing him talk and his rationalization behind all of this. And if you feel like you didn't do anything wrong, in my opinion, it doesn't require all of that. All you had to say is, we're not exclusive, I'm seeing other people, and leave it at that. But some part of Scott knew that he kind of led that girl on and that he made her think that it was something else. So when he's talking, I'm like, okay, Sarah, girl, I've been here before, girl. Just run. Leave it alone. Don't waste your time. He told you all you needed to know. You are 17 years old. This is not the man for you. This is a glimpse into what your future could be. And it's something about him that I just don't trust. And it's okay for him to want to enjoy himself. He's 28. That's fine. But Sarah seems to me to be looking for a way out of her family. And I don't know if that's why she's latched onto him the way that she has. But he just doesn't feel like he's good news to me. I don't know. I could be wrong. Y'all tell me what you think. So back at Nikki's house, or not Nikki's house, back at Sarah's, Nikki comes in looking for Barb, and she can see that Sarah's been crying. So she's asking her, like, what happened? And at first Sarah doesn't want to tell her, but she ends up telling her about Scott wanting to see, other girls that are willing to sleep with him. And I love Nikki's response. It provided a little bit of comedic relief, because she's like, honestly, where do you and Ben find these people? And I'm listening to get like, Nikki, do you understand that they find the people the same way you find the men on the compound? Because the men on the compound, in my opinion, are just like these guys that are out here. The only difference is they get married to cover up the fact that they want to sleep around. Whereas these other guys that aren't a part of the compound, they experience life and explore and do whatever it is that they want to do in that route without getting married. To me, their route sounds better, because by the time they get married, hopefully they get all that out and the woman doesn't have to worry about sharing a man with them. So Sarah hears that and she tearfully says, how do you deal with the jealousy? And when she said it, I was like, So Nikki says, I sublimate it because I'm serving a higher purpose. In your case, there's no higher purpose, which is why there's a problem. And the true problem is that they teach these girls that this is what they're designed to go through, when it shouldn't be. It should not be a situation where this young lady is taught that she just has to deal with the fact that the guy that she loves or cares about is just going to be with other people. That's not fair. And then you tell her, oh, you deal with the jealousy in other way. No, she needs more than that, because she's not trying to go the route that you're trying to go. But Nikki only knows so much herself. So Nikki hugs her, and as she's hugging her, Sarah talks about how she can't compete with the girls that he knows, that they're college girls, and the girl is probably dressing in her lingerie and laughing at her. And I'm listening to her and I'm saying the comparison game is dangerous, especially because the girl probably doesn't even know about Sarah. That girl ain't worried about Sarah. That girl is enjoying Scott. Now, what's the reasons why they broke up? We don't know. For all we know, she could have cheated on him or he could have cheated on her. They could just grow apart. But either way, Scott is trying to have fun. So she's like, she's a used tag, Sarah. You're fresh as a flower. That is where your strength lies. Men like the chase. That's what keeps them interested. Make yourself better than those other girls. Hold on to your chastity, but show him what he's missing. I said, all right. The girl is in front of you and she's breaking down and she's crying and she's emotional. And you tell her to show him what he's missing. No, you should have told her to focus on her and not worry about that man. That it's not about the other girl. It's about her and what's best for her. And what's best for her is to be in a situation where a guy doesn't have to go to someone else in order to feel fulfilled. Right? Where he should be able to get fulfillment in himself. But apparently Scott can't do that. And I'm seeing how much pain she's in. And I said, okay, the emotional pain that she's feeling is probably a lot like what her mother is currently feeling. But it's a nice moment with Nikki and Sarah, even though the advice is something that I wouldn't personally give my child. So Albie spends a lot of this episode working on Nikki, and he does a good job at getting under her skin and planting seeds. He tells her that she needs to convince Bill to give him Weber Gaming, because we all know in the last episode, she told the business. So he tells her, if you do not succeed in getting him to do this, the moment that our father wakes up, I'm going to let him know that you're a thief and that you stole the ties. You stole $68,000 and father will believe it because you are greedy and immoral and you know it. Everyone knows it. Nikki denies it, saying that she's stolen nothing, but you can tell on the other end of the phone, which he can't see her, that something's up. Might I add, Nikki is playing bingo while she's on the phone with him. So Nikki is addicted to this stuff and they don't even know. Right? So he's trying to threaten Nikki and blackmail her, but she doesn't even know that back on the compound, he's trying to get rid of their dad. Her dad even wakes up while they're on the call, and Laura ends up giving him more drugs. So my question is, why rather he hold this over her head and blackmail her than expose her if he truly feels like she did something wrong? It like, what are we doing here? I just feel like they both have things over each other and we just don't know. So we later see Nikki in the bed after she had to have sex with Bill because they're both naked. And she's laying on him doing what she does, which is after she has relations, she tries to get what she wants. So she's, I changed my mind about, the gaming thing. And he tells her, you can't. Like, is Barb pressuring you? Is she making you want to do this? No, it has nothing to do with Barb. It has to do with the fact that she stole money and her brother's blackmailing her. So she tells him it's not any of that. It's just that she's worried about, what this is doing to their family. That, Marge is being aggressive and Barb feels like she's being put out to pasture. And she does her whole spin, but it doesn't work because he tells her it's too late. The polls are closed. And as he gets out the bed, she kind of rolls her eyes. Yeah, like, oh, it didn't work, girl. So while at work, Barb gets a call from Bill, right? Who tells her that she needs to reach out to the gaming people and invite 4 or 5 of them over to their parade, the after party that they're having for, some parade that has floats and all this stuff with John Smith. And Bill talks about the whole hypocrisy of all of that because you have a float with him, but you don't have his wives up there. So they're gonna have a parade the next Saturday at their house with Don and his family, and he wants Weber Gaming to come. I think that is so stupid for him to think that Barb would be okay with this, number one. Number two, you haven't learned anything from letting people know where you stay. Like, you had the Greens burn up stuff in front of your house. You got Albie who just pops up anytime he wants to. And you think it's a good idea to have these gaming people know your address and come into your sanctuary and all those other things. I just feel like it's kind of stupid. And Barb's like, I don't want to do that. And I just want to know why out of all people he wants Barb to do it. So she's like, I don't want to do it. I don't really know them. I don't, feel comfortable calling that guy to have him come over. And I don't really feel like Don's wives are going to want to be around, them, especially with like them taking shots and stuff. And he's telling her not to be so dramatic, but it's not her being dramatic. If you truly take her as she is, then you would take her in that and knowing that she does not drink and she doesn't want to be around it. And neither does the other ladies. So she's against it, but you continue to expect her to just suck it up because it's what you want. It's always about what he wants. So Margene is like, I can do it. I'm more than willing to do it. I already got a double date with Larry and his girlfriend anyways, and Bill this, week. So I guess I'll just, call them and let them know. And Barb has a reaction to that because once again, Barb is feeling like she's not being told certain things by Bill when Bill is supposed to have a situation where it's open communication between all of them. But this just goes back to show you how a lot of times, despite them trying to say that they're one family, that they are not one family, that they operate in a different way. So later that night after dinner, Nikki tells Bill what happened with Sarah. But it's not out of concern for Sarah, in my opinion. It's for Nikki's own selfish reasons because she's supposed to convince Bill to get Weber Gaming. So she has to start to spin this narrative. So she's trying to use this situation with Sarah as one of the reasons why they shouldn't do it. She says, Bill, there are corrosive influences out there, and Weber Gaming will only open the door to this kind of behavior. That's what I've been trying to tell you. But Bill isn't trying to hear it. And he's like, what's done is done. And he walks off. So after he leaves, now Nikki is going to try to work on Barb. So I'm going to work on Barb to make it look like this is a me and Barb thing, when really at this point it's a Nikki thing. So she tells Barb, like, Barb, you were right. I feel like we need to get, rid of Weber Gaming. And Barb basically was looking at her like she's crazy. And she's like, that's great and everything, but you're a day late. Like, you should have already said that. And Nikki's like, don't be a sore loser, Barb. I said, that's the perfect way to get the girl to side with you, by saying, don't be a sore loser. Like, she's not going to want to side with you. She said, don't be a sore loser, Barb. Let's just figure out how to get rid of it, okay? Because when 1 and 2 throw their lots together, it's nothing that they can't accomplish. Talking about the first wife and the second wife. And I wonder how often the various wives gang up on each other, because we later see Marge and her kind of gang up on Barb. So I feel like they often take turns doing this. So she lets Barb know that, I got to tell you this, Barb, I don't want you to be upset, but Bill got Weber Gaming because he went around my father's back and he stole it from the UEB. And Barb is looking at her like, I don't really believe you. But a part of Barb is thinking here, like, hold up, where is she getting this from? So Barb is like, Bill wouldn't do that. He would have told me, he would have had a discussion with me. He wouldn't have done that. And I said, okay, none of you all really know this man. Do you know who you married to? Because I've only been watching this for 2 seasons now, and I figured out that you're married to a guy who would definitely do it. He's already shown you on multiple occasions that he makes decisions without you. So why would you think that he wouldn't make this decision without you too, especially because he's moved so quickly on it and already bought it before you guys even took a vote? So Nikki's like, look, it's not just you anymore, Barb. At this point, you're lucky if you get 1/3 of the information. And she's right, because much like the other ladies, Barb is in denial of who her husband is. So at some point, Ben gets a visit from his new girlfriends. I didn't mention it before because I didn't think it had significance, but at the last party, he met Sissy and Penny. They are twins, right? So he met them at the party that Nikki was throwing for Kathy and them, right? So Barb is mortified when she's introduced to these girls as his girlfriends, and it sends her over the edge because the next thing you know, she is on the phone negotiating with her mother to take Ben, right? First, before she does that though, she shows up at her mom's again, tells her mom that she wants her to take him for the weekend. She wants Ben to be around, better role models. She wants him to go to Sun Valley with them. And Barb is hesitant because she's like, I'm not sure if this is what I should do. I got to make sure that I talk to Bill first, yada, yada, yo. So she's like, well, if he comes, you need to pack a bag and you need to, bring it to the wedding, and then we're going to leave from there. So she's telling her she has to run it by Bill first, but all that goes out the window when she finds out what Nikki revealed to her about the We Were Gaming, because she was already feeling away about the whole Marge situation, and Bill said he just forgot. So she calls her mom. It's like, okay, I'm going to do it. You can take Ben. And you can tell that her mother wants to say something else, but she stops herself from it. So we go from there to Bill. Bill, since he knows the information that has been given to him by Nikki, now he's going to go and confront Scott at his apartment, trying to come down on him for playing the field. The hypocrisy is real, because who are you to come in here and say anything to this guy? These men throw the word testimony in front of what they're doing, and they feel like because they can say that they're above the other guys when they're playing the field in my eyes too. I think back to all the books that we've read, and I think about Cody and how he talks about the spark and all those other things, and how he really, in essence, didn't run it by his wives. He just decided to do whatever he wanted to do. He did it with Janelle. He did it with Christine. He did it with the bird. Like, he just, felt whatever spark and then made them think that they played whatever part they played in it when it came to the wives. So I feel like they seek out who they want to seek out while they're married. They go out on dates like we saw Bill do. They figure out whether or not they want to deal with these women. They have these women come into their homes like he did with Margie, have them babysit and do whatever else while they're trying to fill them out, and they don't even tell their wives what their plan is. That, in my eyes, is cheating. So Bill says to Scott, I have 3 wives, and I'm committed to all of them. You fooling around with girls is not the same thing, and you know it. Does he, Bill? Do you? Because it sounds the same to me. Scott's like, okay, I get all that. What do you want from your daughter? And Bill's response is that he wants a committed relationship for her. And if she has a testimony for polygamy, then he would want that for her as well. And Scott's like, you have no idea how unhappy you make her. And he does it. And I'm not saying that you have to listen to your child's friends, but as a parent, if I was told something like that, that would probably sink in for me. I might even find myself asking, how have I made my child unhappy? Maybe Bill didn't ask because, like another individual that we see on TV currently, a blonde guy that doesn't know how to let go of his hair, he doesn't care about how his kids feel. It's about him, his needs, his desires, and his wants. And because of that, you can't worry about anybody else when you're focused on yourself. So rather than acknowledging the fact that this young man just said that, you make your child unhappy, you brush it off. You don't even sink your teeth into it. He says, if you're not going to treat my daughter with the respect she deserves, then I don't want you around her. This is coming from a man that doesn't treat his kids with the respect they deserve, or his wives. Bill is a fool. So we later see Sarah return to Scott's place wearing her dress and her heels for the wedding. Scott has broken up with her. He tells her, your father came to see me and I think he's crazy. Him being involved with this makes things even more complicated than they already are with us. I'll always care about you. Next thing you know, they're looking into each other's eyes and Sarah has those beautiful eyes. And then they start making out and his hands are roaming. I mean, they're roaming, like they're, caressing breasts and everything as they're kissing. It's to the point where it looks like something else is going to happen, but she thankfully says, I can't. He tells her she looks beautiful and she tells him, I don't mind sharing. And I said, Sarah, this is not good, boo-boo. Sarah is going to fold, y'all. And I feel like because she so desires to have a man want her, because her father has screwed up the way that she views things, that she's going to end up sleeping with this boy. She's going to get feelings for him and she's going to be hurt. And I could be wrong. It's just a feeling that I have. So, on to the compound. At Joey's home, we see Kathy vacuuming the couch while Wanda is sprinkling powdered sugar on a bundt cake. As soon as I saw that powdered sugar, I knew that Wanda was up to no good because she keeps on looking at Kathy to see what Kathy's doing while Kathy's minding her business, making sure the couches are clean. So Wanda goes from sprinkling powdered sugar on the cake to looking at the comet and preparing to grab the comet, because it's a green can. It doesn't say comet. It says something else on it. But if you know a comet can with the green circular can and the white writing and whatever, it's a comet can, okay? And she's ready to sprinkle that. Like, girl, how crazy are you? She would taste that. She would smell it. But she's ready to sprinkle that on the cake instead of the powdered sugar. I said, Wanda, have we learned nothing? You're ready to eliminate the competition instead of just opening your mouth and saying, this is not what you want. Right when she's about to do it, right? Joey comes running and saying that they got to go. Albie is coming. Albie is coming. Grab the suitcases. So Kathy grabs the suitcases and she's packing. Wanda goes from being ready to poison the girl to saying, he's going to get me. He's going to get me. Abby's going to get me. He's going to get me. And Joey's like, honey, no. He's after Kathy. Dad wants her. Wanda's expression changes a little bit. Y'all tell me what you think, but I think that expression changes a little bit because she doesn't want Kathy anymore. And I personally feel bad for Kathy because Kathy seems so sweet and now she's caught up in this Henriksen mess and Wanda gonna try to kill her. Like, Wanda is crazy. So Wanda stops yelling, Frank's gonna get you, he's gonna grab you, and he's gonna get you. Ooh, and I was like, what in the world? Kathy's trying to pack her suitcase and she turns around looking at Wanda like, what did I get myself into? Because Wanda seems excited about it, but we don't get to see what happens in this scene because it never comes back to them. So Lois is at her house trying to get the parrot back in the cage when Albie walks in, because Albie does whatever he wants to do and they don't lock the doors anywhere on the compound or off the compound apparently. So she asks Albie, where are they? I'm assuming she's talking about Joey, Wanda, the baby, Kathy, and she lets him know, like, I know who you really are. Remember that. Now, part of me felt like she was talking about the fact that he faked the testimony. And then the other part of me felt like, okay, you're talking about his sexual preference because y'all remember how he was staring at the officer's booties when he went to the police station. He says, I will do no harm to Joey and his wife and his son. Even if I did, you'd never find the bodies. The way that I would have tripped him with my vacuum, I don't know. You don't threaten my family. And he does a lot of threats. So he then is really, really close to her, and he scares the mess out of her because he takes his hand like this and he grabs her nose and he says, "Got your nose," and he laughs. Meanwhile, Lois kind of trembles a little bit. She's shaking. She's scared. He leaves. Lois later calls Bill because she's worried about what Albie's done to, Joey, and she tells him what's going on. And of course, he brushes her off like he always does. She tells him that the word around the curb is that Albie had Kathy re-educated and Joey went crazy. So she's afraid that something happened to Joey. As soon as Bill gets off the phone with her, he calls him like that's really going to do something. And he threatens him and tells him that, the seat for you is holding on by a thread. You need to find my brother. And I just want to know, do y'all think he knows where Joey is? Because I don't think he does. I think that he's going to act like he does, but I don't really think that he does. I'm hoping that they got out before Albie got there. So the neighbor comes over, Pam, to talk to Barb about her thoughts on surrogacy because she has now figured that Barb is LDS. She wants to adopt, she says, but Heavenly Father told her no. They believe that spirits are waiting to come down to this earth, and her husband is afraid that the spirit of those babies for him may go into an atheist or a meth addict. I don't understand a lot of this belief, but I'm going to try not to judge. So the neighbor Pam is ready to pay Margie. She's telling Barb this $50,000 to be a surrogate for her, which is a shock to Barb because Barb didn't even know anything about the whole surrogacy thing and what she told Pam. So Barb later tells Margie that it wasn't right for her to make Pam think that she was a surrogate, especially because now Pam's hopes are all up, feeling like, okay, maybe she can get this done through Margie. And Margie's like, I just wanted to be more than an unwed mother, which is fair because that's the stigma that she gets because she's not allowed as a third wife to say that she's married for real. And she's like, it should be okay for me to want to do this if I decide to do it. I agree with that too, because it's her body. But I also understand that if you're married, that's something that you need to discuss with your husband because you will be having another man's body in you, baby in you, and there are certain things that can't be done during certain periods of time while you're trying to conceive before the implantation. So Nikki hears this and she's like, I just want to hear what Bill's gonna say. Margie then kind of goes low in my opinion. She's like, I've been a baby factory for you, Barb. I'm just saying you benefited. I expanded your family when you couldn't anymore. Why not Pam? Margie would have had to deal with my wrath because Barb had cancer and she, as a result of being through all of that and almost passing from it, now has to deal with all of you all. Not saying that your kids are a blessing. I'm not talking about the kids. I'm talking about these adults. So don't toss it in her face. Now, to be fair, Margie didn't say it in a spiteful way, but hearing the thoughts on souls and babies, it just really makes me think kind of about what Mary and other women like her go through if they're not able to have children naturally, because I just see them being disregarded on so many levels. As much as Mary annoys me at times, I know that Baldy was stringing her along left and right when it came to that situation, especially when he talked about her being able to have a surrogate and Robin volunteering to do it just for him when she was finally ready to get the ball rolling to pull it back. So I feel like there's a lot of times where this thing comes up and it's an issue for them because they just feel like there's all these souls waiting to be released, and the inadequacy a woman feels in not being able to do that. Barb has 3 children and that's not enough. So Nikki's like, our purpose is to bring superior souls into this family, Margine, not for every barren person on the block. I said, okay, that's harsh too. And it makes me wonder, Nikki, if they found out that you're on birth control yet, because y'all are hypocrites once again. So it's wedding time. Barb shows up at the wedding reception with the kids. Sarah immediately is trying to figure out, what are we doing here, because they don't want us here. And Barb's like, no, I'm the one who's not wanted here. You are. So she's strolling along with her kids, and she got the suitcase, and she's not telling the kids what's going on. So Ben's like, what's the suitcase for? What's the suitcase for? What's the suitcase for? And she finally turns and she's like, look, I'm your mother. I have a say. You'll listen to me for a change. Right when she's walking in, her brother-in-law stops her and tells her, like, look, you know, Barb, you look good, but you better not say anything to my kids or my wife, or talk about, you know, Joseph Smith and the teachings, or try to convert anybody, okay? And when he said that, I said instantly, I don't like him. I don't. He's short and he has a complex, because she's not there for that. So be quiet, little man. She's there because she misses her family, period. And she's trying to figure out what she wants to do. So Nancy, her mom, hugs the kids, and then she looks at Barb and she's like, why are you all dressed up? You can't come. And she turns to her daughter, Cindy, and says, I said the children. I didn't say she could come. I said the children. Explain it to her. And I'm like, why are you turning to Cindy? I feel like your daughter is pressuring you. Why are you turning to Cindy? I said, okay, this situation is even more complicated than I thought. So she goes inside with the kids as Cindy lets her know that, you know, her mom currently is on a short leash because she's too liberal. Her future stepchildren don't approve of her, that her mother and Ned were sealed to the temple, which has upset Ned's kids because they're afraid that their mother will have to share Barb's mother in the, with Barb's mom in the afterlife. I just don't understand this whole thing, because it's, even with some of the books that we read and the way that they explain this, like, if a woman marries a guy and has kids with him, that's their own situation. And if the guy dies and then the woman gets married again and she has kids, what happens to those kids? Because the woman is going to be with her first husband, and the kids that she had with her husband is going to be with her. So what happens to the kids that she had with the second husband? You see what I'm saying? Like, it's just a whole bunch of stuff. And the way that this is explained with them is hard too, because despite Barb's mom already being sealed to her father, Ned wanted Barb's mom to be sealed to him. So she gets unsealed from the father and sealed to them. So she said, the last thing we need, you know, for our mother, Barb, is you sticking around and you have a polygamous meltdown, which I thought Cindy was very rude for saying. But after the way Bill shows up and then Margie and Nikki, I get it, because there's so much unnecessary drama that surrounds the Henriksen family. So Cindy says all that, thinking that Barb is going to leave. And Barb says, nope, she's staying. I laughed when she said it. Bill is supposed to be on his way on this date when Ben calls him, tells him, Mom's, you know, making me stay. She's trying to, you know, kidnap me. She packed a suitcase for me. And Bill tells Margie, like, look, we got to go because Barb's abducted the children. I don't understand how this turned into an abduction. While eating at the reception, even though Ben previously was eager about joining the Air Force Academy, now he's not sure. I want to know what the change is. He's asked by his grandmother if he's seeing any girls, and he's like, yeah, twins. And Cindy laughs. Cindy is a little pot stirrer. Part of me wonders if she's jealous of Barb. Were you jealous of her when you were younger? Like, what is it? Because it comes across as she enjoys division, and I don't like it. So she says, oh, the twins must be at each other's throats because of you. And Ben says, no. They want to marry the same guy, so they're happy. For this, Barb kind of nudges Ben. I don't know if she kicks him or what, but she does something to him under the table. His grandmother tells him that he's being intentionally provocative, and he fires back saying that, you know, the government should allow them to practice religion openly, because, you know, his Ned says, you know, you can't be what you're trying to be and have wives. Like, you got to pick one. I want to know what happened to Ben, because he's starting to act more like his dad, and I'm not a fan. We find out that Barb's mom told everybody that she's, leaving Bill and returning to the church. They go to a room and talk. And her mother feels like, that Barb compromised herself and she's made sacrifices that go against her nature. And Barb's mom is like, Ma, you did the same thing for 43 years of marriage. I witnessed, your marriage, and I saw what your smile covered up. And her mom's like, I loved your father. I had a lot of struggles, one being with the church. She said, I had struggles to obey it. I had your aunt over for Thanksgiving dinners, even before, it was acceptable to tolerate lesbians. And I think I said it on one of my sister wives things, that there's a difference between acceptance and tolerance. But I get what she was trying to say. She was trying to say that she made strides to be better before her church was even willing to do so. So Barb is like, well, can you just tolerate me the same way that you tolerate my aunt? Her mother's like, I can't tolerate you. I'm responsible for your soul salvation, which shows that her mother blames herself for Barb being where she's at, which is deeper than I even know. As I said, the LDS is complicated to me. So we take a break from the wedding. And we see Albie on the video call with Hollis. He tells Albie that his involvement in this situation goes deep. He says he fed us information. He led our girls astray, convinced people to hogtie Miss Adeline. He told our poor sister wives that their love for your father could be best expressed by spilling his blood to cleanse his sins. He did tell them to take your father down. He might as well have pulled the trigger. He pitted us against your father and stole, Weber from the both of us. His sins cry out for blood atonement. Very truly yours, Hollis Green. Here's the problem. Hollis isn't telling the truth about everything because some of that stuff Bill didn't do. Now, did Bill stir the pot? Yes, but I don't think that Bill thought that Roman would get shot. I don't think he thought that they would hogtie his mother-in-law. Like, there are things that he's blaming on him that didn't happen. He didn't tell you to go shoot the man. But at the same point, Bill did do things that led to this man getting harmed. I think he was over his head. I think he didn't realize how violent the Greens were until it was too late, because he did play both sides. And now because he did that, nobody's going to believe him. So Bill pops up at the wedding. He questions Barb about sending Ben away without telling him. And she says, yeah, I planned on doing it. It must have slipped my mind the same way that it slipped his mind to tell her certain things. She's like, look, he's dating twins from the compound whose goal is to marry a guy before they turn 17. Bill's response to that is, Ben believes he has the calling. And, I'm not going to forbid him from testing it. I don't even feel like these kids know what the calling is. I think that it would have been better for Ben to see the bishop, because I feel like for Ben, the calling doesn't really have to do with anything other than what's going on in his pants. And Barb kind of says, like, he doesn't know what he's doing. He's going off of what he sees in you. And I feel like he wants to be able to have sex without feeling like he's a sexual deviant. Y'all tell me what you feel. But they haven't dealt with the issue, which is why he's doing this, because he feels like it's the better route. So this is when she decides to ask him, did you steal Weber Gaming from Robin? And his response is, who told you? She's like, you've given up on everything you know to be right. Bunch of back and forth, doesn't matter. Barb ain't going nowhere. Barb isn't going anywhere. Nancy says, we took you into our home and loved you like our own son when she sees him, which means to me that there's a lot more to this story. She then tells him he might as well get a jacket and join the wedding reception because he ruined her life. Why not wreck her wedding? Bill runs into Ned, Nancy's new husband, who knows Bill from the past. Ned says, you screwed up your life. He then says, I hear that you're into the gambling business. Who did he hear it from? Is it because he's a part of the business? Because he says, the church has, come down on it, but it doesn't seem to have stopped it. It's as profitable as it is because it's, illegal. If it were legal, it wouldn't be. He says, keep Barb out of your business. It makes my life easier. The way that he speaks sounds to me like he has some secret of his own. Ben is all excited. What? Oh, Bill finishes that conversation, walks towards the table, sees Ben and his kids. Ben is all excited because his father is there and he thinks that they're about to go. But Bill tells him, stop using the principal as a weapon of rebellion. You're still angry about Bryn and you got to stop torturing your mom. At one point, her mom sees him with the kids and is like, why is that not enough? And Barb is like, Mom, Bill accepts me and loves me for who I am, but he doesn't. He doesn't love you for who you are. We see him tell Barb he wouldn't have thrown her family away if it was his choice. And just like that, he's back in because they kiss and it's whatever. Bill, of course, all this is going on. At one point, he told Marge that he was going to stay longer, which disappoints her again, telling her that he has to stay. Next thing we know, Albie pops up on Nikki as she's cleaning toilets. As I said before, do these people lock doors? He tells Nikki, I told you not to tell your husband what we talked about. Your husband has a murderous soul. He wanted Weber Gaming so badly he tried to kill our father to get it. He had the Greens pump 3 bullets into Papa's body, and here you are living the high life off the profits. Nikki says, you're the one reaping the reward. His self-appointed successor. You're a joke. He tells her father will be gone in a matter of days and she needs to prepare herself. And Nikki is visibly upset by this. So she calls him a liar. He's like, look, you can come back tonight. You have till tonight to come back or I'm wiping my hands with you because vengeance is going to rain on this family. And he leaves. Do y'all think vengeance was what we saw in that bed later on? So Sarah dances with her father. On the outside, it looks like, it's very loving. But the reality of it is Sarah doesn't respect her dad. So he's telling her that, you can confide in me and, you're beautiful and all this other stuff. And her response is, how can you expect me to take you seriously? Do you realize that you have no credibility? There's nothing you can say to me about relationships or life that I will ever, ever listen to. I said, oh, wow, this thing with him and Sarah is deep. I can't wait to figure out more. So his response to her saying that is wave to your mother. In other words, fake it some more with me. Nikki, as they're inside dancing, calls Margene, who tells her that Barb is trying to leave and take the kids and she's ready to go inside because she's tired of waiting and all this other stuff. And Nikki's like, no. Tells her, no, don't do it. Don't go inside. Just for her to show up and create her own scene by having their son summon Bill and Barb outside. So both of the ladies are standing outside questioning Barb like she's a child. If someone wants to leave, it shouldn't result in all of this type of behavior. Let them go, which goes to show you that this often is what happens. And a lot of women already are fearful of the church, but they also got to worry about what's going to happen when they try to go and the backlash that they get from it and being kind of accosted by these people who are trying to prevent you from leaving. So Barb begs them to go home because she's finally getting somewhere with her mom and she doesn't want a scene. Margene makes it about her, saying that Barb did this to because she was upset about them having dinner. But your issue isn't with Barb, it's with Bill, because Bill didn't have to come there and cancel stuff with you again. Bill chose to do this. She wasn't kidnapping the kids. They all get on my nerves. She's like, you don't approve of Ben living the principle, but what are we living, Barb? Which is true. Hypocrisy again. Bill tells them to go home. Next, you got Nikki going off, yelling, did you put the Greens up to shooting my father for Weber Gaming? And Bill's like, look, I got stuck in between them. Don't ever question me like that again. We're doing this thing together with Weber Gaming as one family in harmony. Cindy runs out and tells them that they need to go. Nikki says something back to her. She's like, look, I will have y'all arrested for trespassing if y'all don't go elsewhere. So Bill tells Barb, go ahead and stay with your family and we're going to go home. And she chooses to go with Bill. Her mother tells her, I know this is painful for you. It's supposed to be. And Barb says, Mom, as she's kind of crying, I don't know if I'll ever see you in the afterlife. And I don't know if you'll be with Daddy or Ned or if I'll be with Bill. But I know that at the very least, I want to see you in this life, which is heavy. Her mother embraces her and she says, this is your one big test, which makes me feel like she's probably not going to see her mom again. I don't know. And she leaves. In the Mormon faith, family units, in my opinion, are said to, and correct me if I'm wrong, to have to endure beyond this life. making the union, the sealing that is done in the temple of a husband and wife, a very serious commitment, which is why them being sealed in the temple and her mother being unsealed is so significant. So her choice to reject her faith by following Bill is a big deal to what was being done there. And it created a lot of rifts in their family. And it's clear to me that neither one of them, when it comes to Bill, not Bill, because Bill don't care about nobody but Bill, when it comes to Barb and her mom, wanted this. Now, I can't talk about her sister, but Barb and her mother didn't want this. I could see that her mother loves her daughter. So the family's back at home. Barb's, taking her stuff off as Bill is in the shower, I guess. And something is moving in Barb's bed. She lifts the comforter, and it's a bunch of rattlesnakes lying beneath the covers of what looked like a perfectly made bed. And I said, oh, how symbolic is that this beautiful, perfectly made bed, those beautiful houses and homes, the way that the Hendricksons appear really is not as it seems, because when you pull back those covers, they're snakes. And I think that Bill is a snake. And I think that this is only going to get worse. If there's something that I left out that you want to talk about it, leave it down below. Tell me your thoughts on this. Like the video, as I said earlier, as it helps the channel. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. Until next time. Just go cricket with me.